Happy Women's History Month, and welcome to Season 3 of Get to Know Women in Energy, where we share the stories, ideas, and achievements of women across the energy sector. In this series, we sit down with trailblazers and industry experts who have and continue to pave the way for women in the energy industry. I'm your host, Ebun Adewole-Dickson. Today, I'm joined by Ginny Garriques, the Chief Engineer for Offshore and Infrastructure at ExxonMobil, the senior technical position covering the subsea, pipelines, risers, and flow assurance engineering disciplines. Ginny is responsible for ensuring strategic development of technology and capability to meet ExxonMobil's deep water portfolio outlook. Since joining ExxonMobil in 1999, Ginny's roles have primarily focused on the deep water portfolio, including roles in subsea research and technology development, project engineering and startups for Angola, Nigeria, and Gulf of Mexico developments, and central organization leadership. Ginny holds a master's in science degree in mechanical engineering from UT Austin and a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas. Ginny, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Ebun. I really appreciate the introduction. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm excited to join you today.
We're excited to have you. Well, to kick things off, I'd like for you to take us back to when you were a university student. What motivated you to pursue not one, but 2 degrees in STEM fields, and how has that decision shaped your career thus far?
Well, yes, that is going back a ways, but that's a great question. And actually a bit of a funny story. So I did not go to college knowing I wanted to be an engineer. I did not have engineers in my family, and I probably didn't even know what an engineer was, but I did like science and math. I liked being challenged and doing hard things, and I liked solving problems. I went to Trinity University, as you mentioned, not with an engineering degree in mind. And if you're familiar with the school, it's generally known actually as a liberal arts school. But somewhere in my entrance paperwork, I ticked some boxes with academic preferences towards science and math, and they routed me into their engineering program. It was a small and very close cohort with my fellow classmates and my professors, very collaborative, tons of support. It was a lot of fun. I was learning a lot. And, as I worked through that, I could see myself working in an engineering field, and it made a lot of sense to me. And so that's how I got through my undergrad, and that's how I became an engineer. My approach to graduate school was much different, though. After my graduation from Trinity, I worked in consulting in environmental engineering for 5 years. It was a great introduction to professional life and gave me a view of what I would and would not like to do for, the rest of my career. And at this point, I was looking for a change in my direction. So I started the process to applying to graduate school. And I was very intentional about the program and the degree I wanted to pursue based on the experiences I had had in those early years of my career. I spent a good deal of time considering the value of going to get an MBA, for example, which was a super popular option for engineers, but in the end, that was not for me. I wanted to stay in engineering and made a conscious decision to do that and pursue a technical path. And looking back, that decision, going back to graduate school, pivoting my career in the field towards oil and gas and staying in engineering has really put me on the path to where I am now. And that's, 25 years later, I still really enjoy all the challenges in engineering and technology that I get to be involved in.
That's very interesting. So often we hear people going to engineering that either, have a passion or have a lot of people in the family that does it. So it's very interesting to hear that, you just were interested in it and you didn't even realize that could have been an option for you. So
yeah,
awesome. I'd like to now ask me maybe some advice focus. So is there anything you wish you could tell your younger self as a newbie in the oil and gas industry? And maybe, for people that are also going into college right now, focusing in the STEM field, what would you probably advise them as well?
Yeah, another good question. And I do think about this a lot, especially as we get, working with a lot of new engineers coming into to work here at ExxonMobil. for me personally, and being transparent, the transition from an academic experience into the big corporate world was not an obvious and well laid out path for me. It was a bit clunky. The skills I had developed to be successful in school were not necessarily what would make me successful at ExxonMobil. As many of you can relate, in college, there's always seemed to be a right or a wrong way to do something, or a professor that had the answer, and your performance was measured quantitatively through tests. And obviously that's not how it works in the real world. So it took me a little while to get that. And so now that's the kind of advice I try to pass on to early career engineers, at least based on my experience, was learn how to get comfortable with not having all of the data. Sometimes there's not one solution, but you really need to be able to make decisions and make recommendations based on what you do know and move forward with that.
Very good advice. I think that pertains to everybody, just not in the oil and gas industry, but in general. University, you focus so much on the actual, just the knowledge and the test taking. It's hard to make that transition with, technical skills. So thank you for that.
Sure.
So now I'd like to hear more about your role at ExxonMobil. Can you tell us more about your responsibilities and what your day-to-day looks like?
Yeah, so I've been in this role about a year now, and I have to say I am just very excited about what I get to do. It's been a lot of fun. As you mentioned, I'm a chief engineer. It's a senior technical leadership role within ExxonMobil, and we have about 35 chiefs across the corporation at ExxonMobil. And we're meant to cover all of our engineering disciplines and also areas outside of engineering, whether it's project management or commercial or procurement. So we have a network of chiefs. And as a chief engineer, our primary mandate is to provide strategic advice to our senior management on activities and developments central to key business priorities by identifying new opportunities and emerging issues. So it's really kind of looking forward, problem solving for the future in our respective areas. And this includes playing an active role in identifying, selecting, and delivering new technologies that will be necessary for us to meet our business needs for our future portfolio. And on the people side, this means defining the skills and the capabilities needed in our disciplines to meet the future demands. That's kind of the high level view of what we do. But, in a typical day, I may be meeting with lots of meetings, but meeting with our technology teams to progress our research efforts, may meet with our operations teams or project teams to discuss what their most urgent issues or challenges are so that we can problem solve. I often meet with external providers like suppliers and vendors in our industry to discuss technology needs and how we may do joint technology development. And that's a particular passion of mine. And one of the best parts, my role involves a lot of mentoring and developing our future technical leaders. So I get to spend time with people. Really enjoy that. I get to discuss their roles and their challenges and how they can continue to grow and develop in their careers.
Thank you for sharing. That's very interesting. On the same lines, has there been anything that stood out to you while being an offshore engineer?
Oh, yeah. So I continue to be impressed by the technical excellence and ingenuity I see in my peers at ExxonMobil and across the industry. It's just, we really have some amazingly smart people out there. Their dedication to their skills and their technical depth is absolutely critical in enabling us what we need to do. And it is just so inspiring for me to work alongside these experts. The best example I can share is my first experience going offshore in Angola, which has, 20 years ago, but has stuck with me all these years. We were about to start up our first deep water subsea field and flying in a helicopter for about an hour with nothing but ocean for as far as you can see. And then, just out of nowhere, these enormous floating vessels come into view, an FPSO, drilling rig, and multiple installation vessels, just huge complex machinery and equipment. And I was just struck by the amount of engineering expertise and countless work hours that had gone into this absolute mega project out there. And then to be able to witness what I call the moment of truth, when we were able to open a valve and to start production in that field, and to see it all come together to operate successfully was just really, truly extraordinary. Just a feat of engineering and collaboration that continues to impress me to this day.
Very, very cool. Definitely, it's obvious you definitely have a passion for it, seeing just how you love the process from beginning to end. Very interesting. And I guess since joining ExxonMobil in 1999, what are some essential skills you've gained that you feel help propel you forward in your career?
So I guess, sure, two things come to mind. Communication being one, and resilience being another. Just being able to articulate and advocate for your position, or translating complex technical situations to concise, easily understandable messages, or providing direct and difficult feedback are all just really very important aspects to effective communication that are key traits for being a good colleague and for being a successful leader. It's not necessarily a natural strength for me, so it's something I've really had to focus on over these years to continue to do better on that throughout my career. And it's resilience. It's a word we've used a lot, especially coming through COVID. But when you're put in a tough position, you need to be able to work through it, and that can be in a number of different situations. I've worked in jobs that I wasn't particularly excited about at first, but then came to realize how valuable that role was in the end, and that I learned a new part of the business or broadened my network. Leading through tough times like a market downturn and how difficult that really is, but balancing the reality of the business needs with, those of your team members. That's a really hard situation to be in. And, continuing to move forward and do your best in those situations, working through particularly difficult setbacks in a project. You have to be able to regroup and plot a new course. So none of those are easy, but having the resilience to work through those difficult situations grows your ability to lead and just provide value to the organization and your team members.
Awesome. I definitely agree. Those are skills that, it may seem like it'll come natural when you get into a leadership role, but it's very, very hard and it takes some time to build. So thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
You've held a multitude of roles and contributed to many assignments over your 20-year career at ExxonMobil. Do you have a favorite? And if so, why was it your favorite?
Oh, okay. So, I was asked this recently, and as I was thinking about it, I surprised myself with the answer, because I'm realizing it's changing over time. So that role I just described, being offshore in Angola, that was so much fun. It was exciting. I learned so much. It was just a great team success and really good team bonding. So for many years, I would have said that was my favorite role. But, as I look at it now, I can see, at least from my view, perhaps it was very narrow with limited impact beyond myself. So now, as I think about this, the role I am most proud of, the one that really is now my favorite, is just my prior role to this, where I was a discipline engineering manager. And that's because it was a role where I felt like I was able to make the most impact to our business and to our employees too. I had the responsibility for our central technical organization, as well as career development responsibility for the engineers across our entire discipline. So I supported career development. It was great when I could get engineers into their dream jobs that they were so excited about, putting them on a path to success that, that's all been very rewarding to me. And in the end, I think that is how I've made my most impactful contributions to success here at ExxonMobil. So I really value that time. And of course, I'm just feel like I'm recently in my current job. So maybe in a couple years, I'll be able to reflect on, that maybe this job will be my favorite of all time. So more to come.
Mhm. But I look forward to seeing what's your next favorite.
Yeah.
So now kind of gearing towards learning about your career and your advice for women. What advice would you give other women that are mid-career professionals but are looking to progress into more senior leadership roles?
So honestly, I think if you have a view of what you want your career path to look like, I'd say the most important thing to do is to make sure your voice is heard and that you talk about that with your supervisors and those who have influence on your career. To the extent you know which job you'd like to do, or describe why you would want that job and find out what it would take to get there. It is great to have aspirations and to be ambitious in your pursuit of them. Having a growth mindset and taking on new challenges all play a part in success. And me personally, in the roles I've been in, I've found that when somebody is clear in their aspirations, you or me or your managers can actually take steps to help plan a course in that direction. So as simple as it may sound, just making sure you have those conversations and being clear about what you see for your future, I think is a great first step in achieving your goals.
I definitely agree. It's, you have to advocate for yourself and be proactive in what you want. So thank you for sharing that. And before we go today, I'd like to ask you just one last question. Why do you feel that it's important to see representation for women in the oil and gas industry and in STEM in general?
Well, it's so I'll say it this way. As a professional in the energy industry, we know we have significant challenges ahead to continue to meet the world's energy demands. We have big, tough problems to solve, and we need the best and the brightest to solve these challenges. So we need diversity in the workforce to bring innovation, and we have to make sure we have the full capacity of the workforce to get there. And women are a key to that success. So we want to make sure we're using every possible source of brain power that's out there to help solve those problems for not just ExxonMobil, but really for the world.
Ginny, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experiences and advice. Your career journey is impressive and provides great insights for those that are either 1 year in the career or 20. Thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you.
If you'd like to keep up with Ginny, you can connect with her on LinkedIn, which is linked in the description below. You can watch the Get to Know Women in Energy series anytime on demand. Visit SPE's Energy Stream site at streaming.spe.org. I'm Ebun Adewole-Dickson, and we'll see you next time on Get to Know.